Welcome to the Paul Adefarasin podcast. We revisit the word, surface the big ideas, and give you space to reflect, pray, and act. If you'd like the full message, though, you can watch it on YouTube or listen on Spotify after this episode.
You know, it's one of the most frustrating paradoxes in life, I think. You're facing this massive, seemingly impossible barrier.
Right. Like a heavy iron gate of a problem.
Exactly. And somehow, against all odds, it just vanishes. It's gone. But then right after that, a simple wooden door, like something you'd literally just need to reach out and turn the handle on, it just stays stubbornly shut.
Yeah, it won't budge. It makes no sense.
It doesn't. And today's deep dive is actually aiming to decode that exact paradox. We've got a really fascinating piece of source material today. And our mission today is really to extract the core spiritual message of that specific sermon. We're going to break down the key scriptures he references.
And uncover the central spiritual truths he's teaching.
Exactly. But most importantly, we want to highlight the really highly practical takeaways, like the specific actions and mindset shifts the pastor is calling the congregation and, you, the listener, to apply to your own life.
And just really quickly, because we are analyzing a religious text today, we want to be super clear up front. We're exploring the pastor's specific theological framework here.
Right. We aren't endorsing any particular religious viewpoint or, taking sides.
No, not at all. We're just impartially breaking down how this sermon uses an ancient text to explore these deeply universal psychological and human struggles.
Yeah, which he does brilliantly.
Yeah.
So the pastor anchors his entire message on a narrative from the book of Acts chapter 12. And he relies pretty heavily on the Message translation to really highlight the political dynamics at play.
Yeah, and the political context is key here. It's what makes this ancient story feel so incredibly modern. So King Herod has just murdered James, who is one of the top leaders of the early church.
And Herod realizes something super politically advantageous, right? The execution actually boosted his popularity ratings with the local populace.
Exactly. It scored him some major political clout. So seeing that, he decides to basically double down. He arrests another major leader, Peter.
Right, and throws him on death row.
Yeah.
He schedules a public execution right after Passover. I mean, it's a purely calculated political move.
It's 100% about optics. He's just managing his approval ratings.
Yeah.
And this is where the pastor introduces his first major conceptual framework. He really challenges how people typically interpret their own suffering.
Oh, this part was so interesting.
Right. The pastor argues that when you find yourself in massive trouble, caught in the crosshairs of a crisis, it isn't necessarily your fault.
Yeah.
In his framework, he points out that religious people often just jump to blaming the devil for every attack, while secular people might just internalize it and blame themselves.
Like, I must have messed up somehow.
Exactly. But the sermon suggests that sometimes you're simply collateral damage in a broader political or spiritual system. Just like Peter was a pawn for Herod to score, like the pastor says, brownie points.
Yeah, because we inherently want to find a reason for everything, right? I mean, psychologists call it the just world fallacy. We want to believe that if bad things are happening, someone must have done something to deserve it.
Because it gives us a sense of control.
Exactly. If I caused my own crisis, then theoretically I can fix it. But the pastor is totally stripping away that illusion. Peter didn't commit a crime.
Right. The trouble wasn't a punishment for a moral failure. And the pastor actually connects Herod's first century behavior to modern internet clickbaiters.
Oh yeah, the internet trolls.
Yeah. He points out that online trolls often drag a person's name or create manufactured drama, not because they even know you or have personal animosity.
Right, just for the views.
Exactly. To game the algorithm and make money. They're just chasing clout. It's systemic. And when you understand that, it totally removes the shame associated with being under attack.
It totally changes the perspective. But okay, there's a specific detail about this arrest in the source text that reveals even more about the attack. Herod didn't just lock Peter up in a normal cell.
No, he went all out.
Yeah. The pastor zeroes in on the fact that Herod assigned 4 squads of 4 soldiers. That is 16 heavily armed guards assigned to one single fisherman.
It's an absurd deployment of resources.
Right. And the pastor uses this visceral analogy to emphasize it. He's like, imagine seeing 5 of a nation's biggest military divisions like tanks, infantry, all mobilized to attack a 4-year-old girl.
It makes absolutely no sense.
None. The sheer scale of the aggression tells you something crucial about how the attacker views the target. So if you, as the listener, are facing this disproportionate massive attack in your career or your family,
It's actually an indicator of the power you carry.
yes, the opposing force respects your potential even if you don't realize it yourself.
It completely flips the narrative of victimhood, doesn't it? Instead of viewing a crisis as a sign of weakness, the sermon frames it as a mirror reflecting your unseen value. I love that. So practical.
Yeah, so the takeaway here for the listener is stop blaming yourself or obsessing over your haters. Recognize the trouble as validation of your own authority.
Okay, so if realizing you're a high-value target is supposed to stop you from panicking, what does that actually look like? Because the narrative moves to the night before the execution, and the text notes a biological response from Peter that feels physically impossible.
It really does.
He's in the inner dungeon. He's literally chained between two guards. He's facing decapitation in the morning. And he knows Herod isn't bluffing because he just killed James. Yet the text says Peter is sleeping.
Snoring, actually.
Right, snoring. I have to pause on this because it challenges basic human biology. Adrenaline and cortisol would be absolutely flooding his system. The fight or flight response would be peaked. Is the pastor suggesting this is denial?
Yeah, it's so natural to look at that and assume it's just a trauma response, right? His brain just shut down from terror.
But the pastor frames this as something deeply intentional. He calls it the silence of faith. And he references scriptures like Psalm 46.1, that God is a very present help in trouble. And the story of Jesus sleeping in the storm.
Right.
The core theological truth the pastor brings out here is all about jurisdiction.
Jurisdiction. Okay, so that's a legal concept, right? It's about having the official power to make legal decisions.
Yeah.
So applying that to Peter snoring in chains.
Yeah, the pastor is essentially arguing that since Peter didn't do anything to put himself in this prison, he doesn't have the jurisdiction to get himself out.
Oh.
Yeah, the situation is completely out of his hands, so he doesn't have to do anything.
Because he can't. That is so wild.
Right. And the pastor highlights a really key dynamic here. He tells the congregation, whenever you stand up and panic to fight your own battles, heaven sits down.
Wow. Because panic is basically a declaration of self-reliance. It's you saying, I have to fix this myself.
Exactly. But when you yield that control, when you rest, or as Hebrews says, labor to enter into God's rest, that's when the divine systems stand up and go to work.
Panic sidelines the help while rest activates it. That's incredibly counterintuitive to our modern conditioning. We are wired to grind our way out of problems.
Oh, absolutely.
If your business is failing, the instinct is to stay up for 72 hours staring at spreadsheets. But the pastor is saying that anxiety-driven action actually blocks the solution. So the pastoral call to action here for the listener is literally sleep through it.
Sleep through it.
Whether it's a terrifying doctor's report or financial ruin, stop trying to engineer your own escape and find peace.
Let the higher power handle it. And in the narrative, it's precisely because Peter rests that the rescue sequence is initiated.
And the rescue sequence is amazing. It reads like a movie. A light floods the cell. An angel appears. And the text notes the angel literally has to violently shake Peter awake.
Because he's sleeping that deeply.
Yes. And then the handcuffs just literally fall off his wrists. The angel tells him to get dressed, and the progression of the escape is fascinating.
It really is.
They pass the first guard, nothing. Second guard, nothing. And finally, they reach the massive iron gate of the city, the ultimate immovable barrier. And it just swings open entirely of its own accord.
The pastor uses the Message translation there. It opens free as a breeze.
Free as a breeze. The impossible barrier yields automatically without a single ounce of human effort.
It's the ultimate display of divine jurisdiction, right? Overcoming those physical limitations.
Yes. But then, and this is the part that always gets me, right after they step through that massive iron gate, they're out in the street, and the angel just vanishes.
Just leaves him there.
Peter is totally alone in the dark. If the goal is a divine rescue, why wouldn't the angel take him all the way to safety? Why abandon a wanted fugitive in the street?
Well, this is where the pastor draws one of his most brilliant practical contrasts. He introduces the concept of automatic doors versus manual doors.
Okay, break that down.
So he explains that God will handle the impossible barriers automatically. The heavy iron gates of your life, the systemic blockages, the things you have zero control over, those will be opened for you.
Like the angel forcing the iron gate. That represents the miracle.
Correct. But the pastor insists that God will not do for you what you can easily do for yourself. God is looking for a co-collaborator.
Ah.
The angel opened the iron gate because Peter couldn't. But navigating the city streets to find his friend's house, Peter has the physical capacity to walk there on his own.
We so often want the solution to be 100% automatic, don't we?
Yeah.
Like we just want the finished product dropped into our laps.
Constantly.
But this framework demands partnership. The iron gate opens automatically, but you still have to do the walking.
Exactly. The divine intervention gets you past the impossible, but it requires your active participation. And that requirement leads directly into the final hurdle Peter faces.
Which honestly turns into almost a comedy of errors.
It really does.
So Peter walks to Mary's house, where the church is holding this intense all-night prayer meeting, specifically for his release. He knocks. A servant girl named Rhoda comes to the door. She hears his voice, she recognizes him, but she is so overwhelmingly excited that she leaves him locked outside.
She literally just leaves him in the street.
Just to run inside and tell the others. And the reaction of the intercessors inside is even wilder. The very people who've been praying all night for his release tell Rhoda she's crazy.
They refuse to believe it. The pastor calls this reaction rationalizing, which he breaks down as telling rational lies.
Rational lies, wow.
Yeah, they claim it must just be his angel. They had the endurance to pray fervently, but completely lacked the capacity to believe the answer actually arrived.
The psychology behind that is so universal. It's cognitive dissonance, right? We get so used to the identity of being the person praying for a breakthrough that when the breakthrough arrives, it threatens our identity.
And the pastor actually shared a deeply vulnerable example to illustrate this. He admitted that after spending 9.5 years building their massive cathedral, this incredible feat of engineering and faith, he was actually scared of the building once it was finished.
That fear of answered prayers is so real. We have this human tendency to be terrified of the very blessing we've been begging for.
Yeah.
Like you pray for a promotion for years and then the offer letter comes and you're paralyzed by the fear that you won't be able to handle it. We often prefer the safety of the prayer room to the reality of the open door.
That psychological resistance is exactly why the pastor gives his final forceful instructions. He distills this into 3 specific takeaways. The first is, stop praying, start opening.
Meaning, don't use prayer as an excuse for inaction.
Exactly. You might be one door away from your best life. The heavy iron gates are handled, but you're standing at a manual wooden door. You have to turn the latch.
Which flows into the second takeaway, take the bold step. And he gets really specific here, doesn't he?
He does. He says, go float the company, sign the papers, go to the bank for the capital, bring out your contact list and make the business calls. God won't dial the phone for you.
That falls under your jurisdiction.
Oh.
And the third point expands this to a macro level. Embrace the opportunity in crisis. The pastor references Noah building a boat during a failing economy.
Right, when the world was literally ending.
Yeah. He urges the listeners to view current national or economic struggles not as a defeat, but as the exact opportunity for their triumph. Like the trouble itself is the raw material for your success.
It's a total mindset shift.
It really is. I mean, what a journey today. We started by recognizing that massive trouble is actually a sign of your power.
Right.
Then we looked at the radical act of sleeping through the storm yielding control and watching impossible iron gates open automatically.
And finally, having the courage to manually open the door to your own blessing.
It really reframes how you look at obstacles. Is this an iron gate I need to rest in front of? Or a wooden door I need to physically open?
It does. And, as we wrap up, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to ponder.
Let's hear it.
Think about the biggest thing you are currently praying for. Just get it in your head. Now, if the complete perfect answer to that prayer knocked on your front door right this very second, would you actually have the courage to turn the handle and let it in? Or would you leave it standing in the street because you're too comfortable just praying for it?
Man, that is a heavy, heavy question to sit with. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the source material today. We hope exploring this gave you some clarity and courage. Keep seeking knowledge, keep uncovering hidden truths, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for listening. To go deeper, watch the full message on YouTube or listen to the full-length sermon on Spotify. Follow the podcast, and please share it with someone who needs it and leave your response in the Q&A. Kindly keep your heart on fire, your eyes on Jesus, knowing you are the exception. Grace and peace. We love you deeply.